All right, hey people, today is September 9th, 2023. It's about 4:20 p.m. here in Indiana. I'm Chris Lucas. I'm just doing kind of a quick video today. I don't even know how long I'll let it stay up because, I'm really debating about taking every video I've ever created completely off the internet. And for people on Rumble and Odyssey, yeah, I got harassed, and so it's like I'm trying not to deal with it. So I am debating about taking everything down. Um, as it's a long story, but anyway. So I'm listening to this video today about dismantling hyper dispensationalism. Um, and I agree with a lot that Tommy McMurdy says and people like Matt First says. But one thing I want to point out, when people attack dispensationalism, is that I think they have this view of like, I guess, like putting too much emphasis on Zionist. And when they put all this emphasis on the Zionist, I feel like they're doing the same thing the dispensationalists were doing in the first place. Because why do people say that? Why do people, even make a big deal out of the the Zionist movement, right? Because that's what these people will be like. They'll attack the Zionist movement and be like, "Oh, people are saying that we need to bless Israel, so we're supporting Israel. We need to stop supporting Israel." And they're putting so much focus on it. It sounds like once again you're making the Jews the center of the focus, just like the dispensationalists do. And now they're like the center of the problem still and all this. And I'm having a real hard time articulating this because this is just like a video I'm throwing together at the spur of the moment. But the issue I see is that all these people that are like, okay, we can't support Zionism, but then they're like constantly, Zionism's false and this, and Zionism's the big problem, but yet they're not pointing at who's actually creating the Zionism problem to begin with. And who was that? Well, that's the Jesuits who created the document called the Protocols of Zion. So it's like, I was seeing these people like, there's this woman Nancy who goes by the name of New Genesis Connection, and she's always coming on to people's shows and blaming the Jews, and like, we got to look into the Jews and see what they're doing, and we got to attack Zionism. Part of the problem, and I think these people, in a way, they're kind of Zionist themselves when all they do is focus on that, but they never ever talk about the Jesuits or the Catholic Church who created Zionism. And I'm going to show you that this document is not a Jewish document, and why these people like New Genesis Connection, like No More News, and all these other people that are like, oh, these Jews are running everything. Okay, why are all these people wrong? And why are all these people, I actually got my questions about them that, um, do you actually even care about solving the problem? Because you're never pointing this part of the problem out. Why was Zionism even made a thing? Well, it's the Jesuits that wrote it. And you never point out how, oh, like, why don't you ever point out that the Jesuits wrote this? And it's a real easy article. I posted the full article in the links, in the description column of my videos. But I'm going to read this. This is by the late Leo H. Lehmann, and he wrote about the Jesuits and the Protocols of Zion, and he's a former Catholic cardinal. And so in his book, he goes, it is admitted by all intelligent people that the so-called Protocols of the Wise Men of Zion are criminal forgeries and could never have been written either by a group of Jews or Freemasons. Yet their authorship remains unknown. The amazing part of it is that this fantastic fraud has succeeded in its planned objective, the ousting of all Judaic Masonic influence in Central Europe by methods that would bring a blush to the cheek of a Mada. I don't know who that is or what that is. Anyway, it says the contents of these alleged protocols are well enough known and have been broadcast in every country as authentic reports, process verbo of secret conferences at which certain Jewish leaders drew up the plans for the formation of an invisible world government with the help of Masonic lodges and the liberal, democratic, socialist, and communist parties. These elders of Zion are said to have conspired for the overthrow of all non-Jewish governments and to destroy all the religions other than Judaism. Every despicable means to weaken the Christian institutions is set forth by the imaginary leaders of this vast conspiracy. All this is to be accomplished principally by means of the Masonic orders throughout the world as the blind dupes and the willing tools of supra-imperialism of the Jews. Credit is claimed for the Jews in having instigated practically all the revolutionary movements of the past century, assassination of rulers and the heads of states, all the wars, civil, racial, and international, and all upheavals and throughout the nations, from the Protestant Reformation to the economic conditions that resulted in our business depression. Behind it all is pictured the cold calculation, the unscrupulous cunning, and murderous fanaticism of these so-called elders of Zion. Protocol 1 tells of a vast army of spies and secret agents, well supplied with funds, who bore from within and create dissension and revolution in all the countries, support of anarchist, communist, and socialist movements for the destruction of Christian civilization is outlined in Protocol 3. Also, the debasement and ruin of the currency system, leading to a worldwide economic crisis, universal war against any nation or group of nation which fails to respond is planned in Protocol 7. Protocol 10 contains particulars how all the morality is to be undermined, leading statesmen blackmailed, compromised, calumniated in order to force them to serve the ends of the conspirators. Now, you got a lot of people that go, wow, I'm reading the Protocols of Zion. It looks like it's becoming true. These evil Jews must be ruining the world. As Nancy, New Genesis Connection, and many others, No More News, will so frantically exclaim, oh my gosh, you guys got to learn about these Jews and they're evil. But, this is not so. It's something the Vatican wrote in order that the Vatican's actually formulated this whole plan, and what they do is they use these other groups. So you got your eyes looked on them. Oh my gosh, we got to look at the communists. We got to all join forces together and fight the communists, or we all got to join forces together and fight these evil Jews, or all this, and it's like they come up with all these various isms, which the Vatican controls them all. And I'm about ready to show you that this Zionism is another ism the Vatican controls, and you can tell just by reading the document. You do not need to you don't need me to tell you. You can read the document yourself, which I'm about ready to point out. So it says the secret conclave at which these monstrous plans were purported to have been drawn up is said to have been held under the auspices of one of the most influential and most highly initiated leaders of Freemasonry. They are also said to have been signed by the representatives of the Zion of the 33rd degree. No group of organization could have ever been as evil and as satanic as these Judaic Masonic elders of Zion pictured themselves to be. They are the apotheosis of antichrist and could only have been conjured up by the minds imbued with fearful expectation of the eventual coming of the antichrist. So I'm just going to kind of skip through all this. You can read the whole article. Okay, so I'm going to get down to this part. Now, the authorship of an anonymous document is best discovered from the document itself by the cause it favors and the enemies it depicts. Now, the enemies it depicts is very important here. These will appear even if placed in reverse. A clear example of this can be seen from such analysis as of a part of these protocols of Zion, which I have before me, is a reprint from the Catholic Gazette of February 1936. So this was originally printed in the Catholic Gazette, February 1936, a monthly publication of the Catholic Missionary Society of London, England. Space limits permit the quotation of only parts of this nefarious document. So here we go. The Judaic Masonic conspirators are speaking. So this is being read from the Protocols of Zion. As long as there remains among the Gentiles any moral conception of the social order, until all faith, patriotism, and dignity are uprooted, our reign over the world shall not come. We have still a long way to go before we can overthrow our main opponent, the Catholic Church. So this is supposed to be the Jews talking, and they say their main opponents the Catholic Church, not Protestants, not some other people, but the Catholic Church. We must always bear in mind that the Catholic Church is the only institution which has stood and which will, as long as it remains in existence, stand in our way. The Catholic Church, with her methodical work and her edifying and moral teachings, will always keep her children in such a state of mind as to make them too self-respecting to yield to our domination and bow before our future King of Israel. That is why we have been striving to discover the best way of shaking the Catholic Church to her very foundations. We have blackened the Catholic Church with the most ignominious calumnies. Sorry, I have trouble pronouncing these words. We have stained her history and disgraced even her noblest activities. We have imputed to her wrongs of her enemies, and thus have brought these latter to stand more closely by our side. We have turned her clergy into objects of hatred and ridicule. We have subjected them to the contempt of the crowd. We have caused the practice of the Catholic religion to be considered out of date and a mere waste of time. One of the many triumphs of our Freemasonry is that those Gentiles who have become members of our lodges should never suspect that we are using them to build their own jails, upon whose terrace we shall erect the throne of our universal King of Israel. So far, we have considered our strategy and our attacks upon the Catholic Church from the outside. Let us now explain how we have gone further in our work to hasten the ruin of the Catholic Church, and how we have brought even some of her clergy to become prisoners of our cause. We have induced some of our children to join the Catholic body with the explicit intimation that they should work in a still more efficient way for the disintegration of the Catholic Church. We are the fathers of all revolutions, even those which sometimes happen to turn against us. We are the supreme masters of peace and war. We can boast of being the creators of the Reformation. Calvin was one of our children. He was of Jewish descent and was entrusted by Jewish authority and encouraged with Jewish finance to draft his scheme in the Reformation. Martin Luther yielded the influence of his Jewish friends, and again, by Jewish authority with Jewish finance, his plot against the Catholic Church met success. So this is why I'm thinking, like why a person that's kind of using their brains would probably go, maybe this Jews did not write this, since the only moral, you think like only the Catholic Church is like the one true light of the world, this beacon of morality, really, when they have all these pedophile priests and they do things to take away freedom of speech, with their Vatican Council for Culture, where they say, hey, we need to make sure social media platforms do not allow free speech. We can't have people criticizing the medicines of 2020 and things like that, right? You can't do those things, and according to the Vatican Councils of Culture. But yet, you guys think that, oh, this document must be true, because obviously when you guys look at what the Catholic Church is doing and how the Pope, was all for forced injections, right? And it's been doing this for 200 years, and the Catholic Church had art magazine articles proudly saying it, right? And you're thinking, and you people are stupid enough, right, to see, I don't even know if you're stupid. I wonder if you're just evil enough to overlook that the Vatican wrote the Protocols of Zion, because you never bring it up. And I'm not talking to people like McMurray or Matt First. I'm just, because I've never talked to those guys before. I'm talking mainly like people like No More News. I can't think of the guy who runs the site. Everybody probably knows his name. But it's like, really, you never considered that Jews might have not have wrote this document, because the Catholic Church sure isn't some moral beacon of the world. So maybe the Catholics use this as a forgery, and maybe you need to start bringing that up, and maybe you need to start bringing up how maybe this whole Zionism thing is a Catholic fabrication that they use. So you got that now the Jews are become the boogeyman. Now everyone blames them. And also, since the Jesuits push the 70th week of Daniel into the future and keep talking about, oh, there's going to be an antichrist that signs a 7-year peace treaty or whatever, and everyone, and then, the whole world's going to go crazy and all this other stuff, that this kind of thing works hand in hand, because now if we got this whole narrative about evil Jews trying to control the whole world, and then you got some supposed antichrist that's Jewish that steps into the world and then signs a 7-year peace treaty with Israel or the rest of the world or whatever they do with this crazy doctrine they got. All this fits in. But see, if you can kind of expose this part, I think now when you speak against Zionism and you speak against that whole 70th week of Daniel and futurism and stuff, if you incorporate this, then things will start to make more sense to people. But if you keep leaving this out, I don't think it's going to make much sense to people. So I just kind of want to point that out. I'm not, because I think I read enough to where you can, I hope anyone with a brain can like look at this and just go, maybe Jews didn't write this. I'm going to read just these last few lines though, where it says, we are grateful to the Protestants for their loyalty to our wishes, although most of them are, in sincerity of their faith, unaware of their loyalty to us. France, with her Masonic government, is under our thumb. England is, in her dependence upon our finance, is under our heel. And in her Protestantism is our hope for the destruction of the Catholic Church. Spain and Mexico are but toys in our hands, and many other countries, including the USA, have already fallen before our scheming. Likewise, as regards to our diplomatic plans and power of our secret societies, there's no organization equal to us. The Jesuits are the only ones to compare with us. We have succeeded in discrediting them, for they are a visible organization where we are safely hidden under the cover of our secret societies, but the Catholic Church is still alive. We must destroy her without the least delay and without the slightest mercy. Let us intensify our activities in poisoning the morality of the Gentiles. Let us spread the spirit of revolution in the minds of the people. They must be made to despise patriotism and the love of family, to consider their faith as a humbug. Let us make it impossible for Christians outside the Catholic Church to be reunited with that church. Otherwise, the greatest obstruction to our domination will be strengthened and all of our work undone. And what I find curious about this is we have, every time there's something happening in news, we'll see like like those kids from what was that place? There's some kid that was wearing a hat, and he's a Catholic kid, and it says "Make America Great," and he's wearing a Trump hat. And so when something happened to him, you had Glenn Beck go, guys, and other Republican or other so-called conservative news networks. And they're like, guys, we must get behind these kids. We must all be Catholic now. We must all be Catholic now because the world is coming against the Catholic Church, and we must unite with them. Because if you attack them over, making America great, then we know the whole world, and so we all got to. The whole world must be against them, so we all got to unite with the Catholic Church. And Glenn Beck did something else, where maybe a pastor was speaking up against, or a Catholic clergy member was speaking out against abortion, and then someone says something mean to him, and he's like, guys, we all got to unite with the Catholic Church. It's almost like Protestants, Protestants, of course, we love abortion, right? So of course but it's the Catholic Church that's so holy and good. And so we got to unite with them and join forces with them. Like, that's how the media constantly does it. And when you look at who runs the media, like Rupert Murdoch, who runs Fox, well, he's a papal knight of St. Gregory. If you go look it up, he is, and he runs Fox Network. So, and he also said his richest friend, what was it, Pell, who was like the third down in the Catholic hierarchy, who got in trouble with raping boys and was even convicted of it in Australia, but then a closed court of judges overturned it later. But he was like the third one down. He had Rupert Murdoch was like, "Oh, I congratulate my friend for becoming like the third highest up in the Catholic Church." And that's his good buddy, right? And then Rupert Murdoch runs a lot of the media in Australia, which helped get that guy out of that trouble that he was in by controlling those news stories, all right? So it's not like these people are beacons of morality. And then you have Sean Hannity. What does he do? He hires nothing but Catholics. You always have people like Ann Coulter, Laura Ingraham, Bill O'Reilly, Sean Hannity, all Catholics, right? And they're all giving you the news and telling you who to vote for and what conservatives you should support and how you should think and what you should be mad about and what you shouldn't be mad about and who you should unite with and who you shouldn't, And it's like when you start to see this and you get to see how this is just a massive manipulation of your mind with all this propaganda going on to unite with this church. And to me, it's like it just goes hand in hand to what they're doing with this document. But I just noticed, when they keep going, every time it's never a Protestant that's standing up for something that they'll report about. Like, I could have a protest where there's like 1,000 people at it, and you wouldn't see any kind of like news about it. A Catholic could go have a protest with like maybe 100 people at it, and suddenly it's all over Fox News and everything. And it's like, oh, we got to unite with the Catholics now. Got to unite with the Catholic Church. And I think that's why, because they want to control the opposition. Because it's like these people that go and do this stuff, I never see any good positive change. It's always like, let's get behind these people. And these people seem to like do nothing but you're just turning your wheels in the mud and you're never going anywhere. You're just stuck. But I want to go up to something earlier that was said in this document. So in this first paragraph, it says, all this is to be accomplished principally by the means of the Masonic orders throughout the world and the blind dupes and the willing tools of this supra-imperialism of the Jews. Credit is claimed for the Jews in having instigated practically all the revolutionary movements in the past century, assassinations of the rulers and the heads of state, all the wars, civil, racial, international, and all the upheavals throughout the nations, from the Protestant Reformation to the economic conditions that result in our business depression. He also had something where they say, oh yeah, the second line right here. Behind it all, there's pictured the cold calculation, the unscrupulous cunning, and the murderous fanaticism of these elders of Zion. Protocol 1 tells of a vast army of spies and agents well supplied with funds who bore from within and create dissension and revolution in all the countries. Now, the Vatican and the CIA put together this thing called Project Gladio. And guess what Project Gladio did? It organized the means of all these secret organizations from the mafia on up to all these like groups that are in other countries that help overthrow the government. And so it's all done and connected through this project called Operation Gladio, which the Vatican runs. And that's something I don't want to go too much into it. I don't want to make this video too long, but I do want to bring up this one document called the Pope's Commandos. By Herbert Holdridge. Sorry, it was just like when I was reading this just kind of came up. But in this document, and it's when I saw that whole part about the agents, when it says Protocol 1 tells of a vast army of spies and secret agents, it made me think about this document. Because this is supposed to be a letter that Herbert C. Holdridge, Brigadier General of the U.S. Army, sent to President Eisenhower in 1959, January 18, 1959, warning him of these. And he goes, in summation, a vast, hostile, cohesive body of individuals trained in the use of arms within and with access to arms, operating nationally and internationally to impress upon the governments and the rest of the people of the United States programs of action representing dire peril to our government and our entire society. Now, it's really weird that all these people keep talking about the protocols of Zion and evil Jews, never bring up this document, the Pope's Commandos, by a brigadier general, who wrote a letter to Eisenhower himself, and no one's ever, went over this, it seems, and refuted it at all. But down here, I see this part about spy rings. All right. So it says, and so in part 4 of this, it says operations. Subversion of our free institutions through schools, press, radio, TV, infiltration into our public office, particularly into the armed forces, where they constitute an armed, tightly organized task force. Oops. Sorry, I don't accidentally clicked it. Sorry, I'm going to have to start all over. Subversion of our free institutions through schools, press, radio, TV, infiltration into the public office, and particularly into the armed forces, where they constitute an armed, tightly organized task force for violence against our people and government, and where they have organized a spy ring to betray top secret documents to the Pope and the commanding general of the Jesuits. Potential armed violence against our citizens, such as occurred in Argentina when the people were bombed by planes from the Argentinian Navy, and like action by such commandos trained under the Vatican, the Jesuits, Cardinal Menzinski, Alan Dulles, General Gronther, who launched a wave of violences and counter-violences in Hungary. These commandos hastened into the U.S. in violation of immigration quotas and without screening, and are now underground on our soil. Their shock troops, assassins, presumably under the command of the General Russell, as part of a foreign legion of NATO, now undergoing training at Fort Bliss, Texas. Now, think about this. This is happening on January 18th of 1959, and it's never been addressed. Right? This guy writes this document, never gets addressed. I kind of want to read the beginning part of it because I was reading the back page of it. But we can see right here, General Holdridge, Minuteman, gives the address to Dwight Eisenhower, President of the United States, subject the Pope's Commandos. So it says, under the above title, Saturday Evening Post of January 17th, 1959 presents such a shocking exposure of the dangers we face from the Jesuits, the Society of Jesus, as to fill the heart of every loyal citizen with dread. This article provides conclusive documentation of the dire threat of this Roman Catholic order and of the forces of the Vatican affiliated with this order, which I have attempted to drive into the consciousness of yourself, officials of the government, and sleepwalking people of the United States for the past 5 years, risking my very life from day to day to do so. At last, you must listen, for truth is now spread before you from impartial sources. Permit me to reanalyze for your comprehension the salient facts presented in this article. Number one, purposes. The fundamental purposes of the people of the United States are to promote the principles of liberty stated in our Declaration of Independence and in the preamble of the Bill of Rights and of our Constitution. The fundamental purposes of the Jesuits, an international dictatorship, are diametrically opposed to our characters of liberty and are publicly and arrogantly promoted on our own soil by this anti-American organization. I refer to you the syllabus of errors of Pope Pius IX, in which our freedoms are categorically condemned point by point, thus establishing the forces of Jesuitism, Vaticanism, as enemies of our state. The Constitution of the United States provides for democratic government of, by, and for the people. The Constitution of the Jesuits, and imposed upon all Roman Catholics by the command of the Pope, provides a military dictatorship under the command of a commanding general, the Black Pope of the Roman Catholicism, to whom even the White Pope must yield authority, and backed by the claimed 30 million Roman Catholics in the United States. Further, the purpose of the free citizens of the United States is to promote the general welfare without regard to race, religion, or color. The purpose of the Pope's Commandos is to promote, let me kind of move this just a little bit. The purpose of the Pope's Commandos is to promote the secular and religious philosophies of the Vatican, which are hostile to the people of the world as an international political state. This is clearly and publicly stated in the battle cry of the Jesuit Vatican forces, "Make America Catholic." Oops. If successful, its campaign, if it's successful in its campaign, this combination will destroy political and religious liberty in the United States. So to me, it seems like that whole document of the Learned Elders of Zion, which I just read parts of it to you, and this, it looks like if the Catholics are doing all of this, that makes sense that you would create the Protocols of Zion to cover this part up, which is never talked about. See, we had Abraham Lincoln get his brains blown out by who? The Roman Catholics and another brigadier general. I'm gonna bring this up. Rome's responsibility. Here we go. This is a book written by a brigadier general. I can't remember the date. We'll go look at it. Okay, in 1897, a brigadier general by the name of Thomas M. Harris, who oversaw the trial of all the co-conspirators behind the assassination, wrote this book called Rome's Responsibility for the Assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Now, in this book, he's talking about how all 10 Catholic conspirators behind the assassination of Abraham Lincoln were all Roman Catholic, right? So, and John Surratt had fled from the United States, and when they found him, guess what he was doing? He was one of the Pope's bodyguards. And I'm not going to go read into this book, but I'm just kind of bringing up more proof of things that no one talks about. And oh yeah, one of the reasons why I will bring this up. Okay, so we ended diplomatic relations with the Vatican shortly after the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, and part of it was because the Vatican was so getting so wrapped up in the affairs of America. And so we broke off diplomatic relations with them. And part of it was the fact that it looked like they were spurring this whole civil war in America that was going on. Well, about almost how many years later? 100, what was it, about 150 years later or so? 100 years later. About maybe 120 years later. Yeah, about 120 years later, Ronald Reagan becomes president. And what does he do in 1984? He removes the laws that prevented a Vatican embassy so one could be created. So all these laws that they created to separate themselves from having diplomatic relations with the Vatican, Reagan removes those laws and starts having diplomatic relations with the Vatican once again and creates a Vatican embassy. And not surprisingly, Reagan was considered one of the most Catholic-friendly presidents we ever had, and almost everybody he nominated was a Roman Catholic. And so I don't see Jews being the issue, right? Like when we leave the southern border open, right? We can easily close that. I'm pretty sure everyone thinks we can easily close that border. But why does it seem like it's purposely left open? Well, over 90% of the population of those southern countries are Roman Catholic. So guess what? If you leave that border open, you can make America Catholic, right? And you let those people come in. And if the Pope's like, hey, I'm anti-gun, I'm I'm for open borders and all this other stuff, I'm for socialism. Now these Catholics that come into our country, now they can vote for what the Pope wants, and they'll feel like this loyalty towards them because they want to see all their other friends and family coming to America too. And so we know by voting for these Roman Catholics, they'll make it easier. And so we'll keep voting for the Roman Catholics. They'll run the government, and then that loyalty brings in more of their family and friends into America, makes it easier, right? And then they can run their socialism and all their other agendas, anti-gun agendas. Because it's not the Jews that want to leave the southern border open. Why does that matter to Jews? Why would it matter to Jews to have almost a whole entire Supreme Court of nothing but Roman Catholics, not a single Protestant on it? So I'll just read this one comment. Someone said, Project Gladio was financed by the bringing heroin into Harlem and other black neighborhoods. The Vatican Bank laundered the money to finance the MI6 and CIA right-wing terrorism. And John goes on to say, Operation Gladio was the use of right-wing terrorists to commit acts of terror and to make it look like the terror bombings and sniper attacks were done by left-wing Marxist groups. And thanks, John, for saying you're glad you're seeing me back. Like I said, I don't know if I'll keep this video up. I'm just kind of making it and hoping that some of these people that were freaking out about Zionism, and because it's like I've listened to their videos and they always keep talking about Zionism, and then they're like, but they're anti-dispensationalist. And I'm like, well, if you really want to get to the core of it, you need to start bringing up the protocols of Zion and explaining Rome's connection in all this. Because see, without attacking Rome and how they spurred this whole Zionism thing, to me, all you're doing is you're kind of talking out of the both sides of your mouth. You're like, yeah, I really hate Zionism, but I'm going to help cover up who's actually doing it. So to me, you're actually a Zionist at that point. All right. So I mean, I'm not, because Matt First and Tommy Murtry and others, they may have never thought about this. So that's why I'm making this video. So I want to be clear. I'm not accusing them of this, but what I'm saying is from here on out, if you hear this video and you don't look into this and you keep at it and you never talk about this part of it, I'm going to think that you are exactly like a Zionist, but you're just talking out of both sides of your mouth. Like, like, oh, that Zionism, we shouldn't support Israel, but we're not going to talk about who's really behind it. So in a way, you're kind of being two-faced, right? I mean, not saying you were, but saying from here on out, that's what I will think of you, because that's why I'm bringing it to attention. People like New Genesis Connection, Nancy. You think that you're against Zionism and think this is so horrible. Well, here, you don't talk about this part of it now. You're just like them, because see, now you're wanting to put so much blame and focus on it, and just like the Catholic Church, that's why they created it. And it's to blame the Jews and don't look at them while they set up their one world religion and one world government and push their forced vaccinations and all this other stuff. Because I'll go 200. I just want to just kind of flash this up on the screen, because this is from a Catholic website, the National Catholic Reporter online. See, papal vaccine campaigns offered punishments and rewards 200 years ago. Guess what they're doing now? Guess who's all for it? Vatican Council of Culture and all that. Who's all for it? How come these people aren't talking about that? Just me, who gets ran off the internet, 10 times. I can't even have a T-shirt printed and make money off of it, because I'm ran off the T-shirt site. They keep all the money, all these accounts. It's like, I can't support myself doing this, because they have cut off all my funding means. I'm still trying to look into different ways of doing it, but you got all these other people. I mean, you got pastors of churches. You already got a congregation funding it. You're not in the same boat as me. It's not like, oh my God, my job's going to be threatened if I talk about it. No, it's not. You're in front of a church. You're already getting paid by your congregation. You can talk about it, and you don't have to suffer any kind of financial repercussions by talking about it, right? Or you can at least say, hey, I got this news. Make up your mind what you want to do with it, but this is what I'm reading, and it's up to you if you just want to be like, oh, that's nothing. You could do it that way. You don't have to say, oh, for 100% sure that this is Pope pushing the New World Order. Okay, maybe you're a little scared to say that to your congregation. You could at least bring this up and say, I'm just bringing it up to your attention. I'm not saying it's really going on, but I'm just bringing it up to your attention. Oh, well, I appreciate it, Barbara. I appreciate it. It's so worth a listen. Yeah, I just, yeah, I see, what's weird is a lot of these people can go on forever, man, bashing the Jews. And they're always like the last. Like, I'm not saying that they don't get censored, but they seem to be the last to be censored on YouTube and all these other places. Whereas, someone like me that points this out, bam, gone, man. Now, I don't think I'm being very careful this video, so I know this should be fairly safe. I'm being pretty careful. I haven't really gotten into anything super deep yet, but yeah, I just think these are the main points. And I guess I'll read the rest of this document called "The Pope's Commandos" that General Herbert Holdridge wrote in January 18, 1959 to Dwight Eisenhower. So number 3, I'll go on to read. The Jesuit military organization, shock troops of the Vatican, which consists of a commanding general, a general staff, which includes U.S. citizens, 10 Jesuitical geographical provinces, territories, commands similar to our army areas, each with its own commander, 350 recruits per year from U.S. citizens for the Commandos, one of these recent ones being the son of John Foster Dulles, Secretary of the United States, who promotes the foreign policy of the Jesuits as the foreign policy of the United States. 6,000 commandos operating throughout the world with concentration on the U.S. as a major prize of war. Unnumbered thousands of shock troops, not part of the Jesuits, but allied with them, composed of the Knights of Columbus, Paulist Fathers, etc., already possessing arms to be used against our citizens, 40 million male troops of the line operating internationally, comprising the League of the Sacred Heart, 6 million within the United States, larger than the total armed strength of the United States. 1 million members of the Women's Auxiliary Corps, soldier right. I don't know how you pronounce that word of Our Lady, operating within the United States alone. Thousands of priests, nuns, lay priests, laymen permeating our society to promote philosophies hostile to our state. 120,000 citizens, students in the Roman Catholic colleges under the influence of the Jesuits, with their thousands not directly under the Jesuits being impregnated with such hostile philosophies. Unnumbered millions of Roman Catholic children of the Roman Catholic citizens subjected to the same hostile philosophies in the Roman Catholic parochial schools to subvert our institutions. But you got to remember, this is back in 1959. How much worse might it be 60 years later? How much more advanced must this have gotten, since it was just completely ignored? And then when you watch people like Trump and Ronald Reagan and George Bush nominate almost nothing but Roman Catholics, gotta say it's the same. And I know people go, Chris, you're bashing the Republicans. No, the Democrat Party is already completely controlled. We already realize this. And this was done all the way back about the 1840s, because there was this ticket where it kind of started like in New York. It was like the big formation of this, where they said, hey, the Catholic Cardinal Hughes, Bishop Hughes, he said, we'll support candidates who agree to do all this stuff, and you'll have full Catholic support. And at the time, it was mainly the Democrat Party was the dominant party. So guess what politicians are taking up these Catholics on that pledge? Okay, it would be the Democrats mainly. And that's why when you go to New York right now, is that a place where if you're a conservative, you want to live? Right? And this is the place where it all started. And now guess what party's dominated and is dominating in New York? Oh, it's the Democrat Party. Huh. So they were like the first party that kind of got taken over. So then that's why you had the creation of the Republican Party. But even the Republican Party, you had people infiltrating it and trying to control it from the beginning also. It's just that they couldn't openly do it. But the Democrat Party was pretty much completely controlled. That's why it's like almost the entire Democrat Party supported the South when it tried to succeed from the Union. It was already controlled, and that's why you had Southern Democrats were united in keeping Republicans even off the ballot completely. So if you fast forward it to today, the reason why I mainly focus on the Republicans is because I already know the Democrat Party's taken over. What people are stupid about and ignorant of is that they don't see how the Republican Party has been taken over, and how most of these people that claim that they want to help are two-faced. It's like just like George Bush, when he nominated this guy Judge Roberts to the Supreme Court. I remember everyone like Democrats crying about it, and my Republican friends saying, "Yeah, man, we got Judge Roberts on the court. Right on, man, we're winning." I'm like, "No." I said, this is stupid. I said, the Democrats are crying about this just publicly, but behind the scenes, they're high-fiving George Bush. And you can see those pictures of let me see here, Michelle Obama hugging George Bush. Right? See, we remember these pictures of Michelle Obama and the Obamas hugging. Oops. Let's see. Oh, I don't know why it keeps switching me like that. I don't want to do this. So we remember seeing these pictures where it's like Michelle Obama hugging George Bush, and they're all friendly and wow. Right? We remember that. But see, when I said, oh, they're all friends, And this was like right after 9/11, and George Bush nominates Judge Roberts to the Supreme Court. Everyone sees the Democrats crying. Oh my gosh, they just nominated Roberts. I'm like, dude, they're faking it. They're high fiving each other, and people are like, no, you're stupid. You're dumb. That's not what's happening. Well, look, now we got proof. Years later, when everyone kind of forgets about this stuff, now you see them all huggy and lovey-dovey each other, right? And the same kind of fake hate is also projected at Donald Trump. They don't really hate Trump. You're falling for the same thing that happened back then. And you people are going to be like, no, Chris, this time you really are stupid. No, this time you're dumb because you fool you once. Shame on them. Fool you twice, shame on you. Shame on you because you're being fooled twice, right? This is what's going on. And you're going to still vote for this guy, Donald Trump, who took and nominated people like William Barr, who nominated. And what did William Barr do? Oh, yeah, William Barr was the same guy who helped Clinton, Bush, and Reagan get away with what was going on in Mena, Arkansas, running the drugs in from out of the country through this plane refurbishing site into Clinton's backyard, and then they run the guns back out to the Contras in Nicaragua, right? And so they're doing this, and they go, and reporters were like, "Hey, Bush, if you win, will you look into what Clinton's doing in his backyard, running guns and all this other stuff, and running drugs in?" And Bush is like, "Yeah, if I get elected, I'll look into it." And then Clinton, and then you had like the Democrats are like, "Hey, Clinton, if you get elected, are you going to look into what Bush is doing, running those drugs in and out of Arkansas?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll do an investigation, and he only pays like $50,000 investigation. It was like a bogus investigation, barely spent any money looking into it. But guess who could have convicted them both? William Barr. And William Barr, hey, nothing, he says, hey, I'm not going to interfere with an election, so I'm not going to look into it. And so then they both get off the hook. You had Brett Kavanaugh. He was one of the guys that were part of the Vince Foster investigation. Vince Foster investigation, that's where it looks suspicious that Vince Foster killed himself. And so some people said, oh, it wasn't a suicide. It was a murder. It looks suspicious. And there was all these like little details that made it look real suspicious. And Brett Kavanaugh was one of the people that helped sabotage the investigation. And then guess who gets to become a Supreme Court judge under Donald Trump? Brett Kavanaugh. Guess who becomes an attorney general? William Barr again. These guys did such a great job, and you guys think, oh, he's draining the swamp, or he's playing 4D chess. Yeah, Chris. I had these same people that run these big, massive Trump fan bases, the presidents of them, and they were like sitting there and they could have changed it. All they had to do was let this information filter down to their crowd, but instead they banned me from the group. They said, Chris, I'm going to ban you, and I'm going to tell you why I'm banning you. That's just crazy. That Trump, I'm going to tell you the truth, Chris. Trump is sitting there and he's got the goods on him. He already knows this. He already knows that these people were bad under Clinton, but he blackmailing them. And he gonna blackmail them and make them do the right thing, and he gonna make America great. And so I'm banning you. And so that's why I was kicked out of all these groups, because of these people. But what they're doing is they're pushing the same stupid nonsense. It's just like, it's lies. It's apparent. You don't have to nominate these people. You can nominate people that never did anything. And you honestly think like it's okay to blackmail people to get them to do what you want? I mean, this is all crazy and nonsense. All this 4D chess stuff, it's nonsense. It's like, Trump basically is just doing all the same things. And all these people are Roman Catholics too. So I don't know if I need to actually bring up all these articles, but it's like, you had Gina, what was her name? I want to say Hatfield, but I don't think that's her name. But that one woman for the CIA or something that he had originally, she was all guilty of. She's a Roman Catholic, and she was guilty of torturing people in these black ops sites and getting false confessions. And that's why she doesn't think torture works, because she was doing it illegally. And well, it was so-called legally since it was off of the United States soil, but torturing people, which got false information, which lied us into Afghanistan and Iraq and all these other wars. And anyway, I think I'm just going to leave it at that. I just kind of wanted to bring this to people's attention. I want to keep this video shorter, but it went a little long. I'll answer one question. Isn't this the same thing Walter Vaith is going on about? No. Walter Vaith, Jesuit, SDA, that whole SDA organization, Seventh-day Adventist organization, is Jesuit to me. And the reason why I say that, I can confidently say that, is because, let's see here. Seventh-day Adventists have a health message, right? You're not even supposed to drink coffee. All right. Oops. I don't know how to get it to go back. But anyway, the Seventh-day Adventists have a health message where you can't even drink coffee, tea, and these are just natural plants that come out of the ground, right? So what are they doing when it's let's see here, Seventh-day Adventists. This is not what I want, but church, Shiloh. Let's see. Let's see, you can't drink coffee and teach at an Adventist church or promote the drinking of coffee and tea and things like that. But hey, a COVID-19 vaccination, that's completely okay, right? Like, that does not make sense to me, and that's why I think it's Jesuitical. Because guess who promoted the thing in the first place? Right? I mean, we got the Catholic Church, right? They promoted this stuff, right? I don't think vaccines are natural to begin with. But I mean, I guess you could kind of say, well, if you take a deadened virus, like a normal deadened virus, and you deaden it and you put it in you, it's not like you're creating something new, right? You're just boosting the immune system by killing a parasite or a bacteria or a virus. You weaken it, you put it in your system, and then your system can gain immunity by beating up on a weaker virus and recognize it. Okay, let's say that whole thing works. I'm not going to dispute people on whether it does or not, because I know there's some people that say, oh, that whole vaccination thing doesn't work, period. Okay, whatever. But let's just pretend like that does work. You could maybe argue that the Adventists, if they allowed something like that, okay, maybe. I mean, that's sort of natural, I guess. I mean, you're still putting it in your body in an unnatural way, but okay, we can let that go. But we're talking about something that was rushed out at warp speed by a guy that looks like he's working with the Jesuits, Donald Trump. You have the Pope promoting the thing, right? And guess what? Your church goes and promotes it, but this is not the most natural substance in the world. Everything about it's made in a laboratory. It's not found in nature. And you're saying, oh, but we're going to distribute vaccinations at our church. To me, that's very... You're going along with them. And so when you guys try to say, oh, no, we're not really working with the Jesuits and the Pope. No, I think you are. I think you lie to people when you say keep the Sabbath, and you don't, because you're promoting a false prophet. And by promoting a false prophet, you break the Sabbath, because it says, don't have any other gods before me. And false prophet sits in the temple of God claiming to be God, because she's claiming her words come from God. She claims her testimonies are the words of God. And then the church promotes her testimonies as the word of God. And so there you're breaking the Sabbath, because it says keep the Sabbath holy. That's obviously unholy if you're going to take and promote a false prophet and a false idol on the Sabbath. And that's what she is. Her writings become an idol. that you use to view the rest of the Bible in. So it's like so it is like your own Bible, because you're viewing the Bible so hard through the lenses of her. It's changing the words of the Bible to fit the lenses that you're using to view the Bible through, right? Because now you're filtering it through the writings of Ellen White. So you're changing the words of the Bible through that. And it's causing a great deception. So I think everything of this spirit of deception, whether you're purposely working with them or you're just a useful idiot that's so stupid that you have no idea that you're working with them, because you're helping to do all their same things by that the antichrist wants you to do, by not worshiping God, by seeking some false form of Jesus and some false form of salvation, some anything contrary to the word of God, believing in something that alters the way you look at the Bible. I think that's what the devil wants. So, and then when I see you guys have talking, because this is pretty two-faced, you say that, oh my gosh, we got this health message, and then you're gonna, oh, but let's give out this super safe mRNA injection at our church, huh? Oh yeah, Chris, if you want to teach at our church, you better not drink coffee or promote drinking coffee, but you go get the vaccine. Go get this mRNA injection, where they had to change the definition of vaccine just to make it a vaccine. I mean, and we rushed it out, because it was such an emergency. We warp speeded it, got it out to you. And yeah, even though it didn't normally follow the same safety guidelines, us at the Seventh-day Adventist Church, while we don't like coffee drinking and we don't like tea drinking, this rushed out thing that was created in a lab, go ahead and you can jam that in your skin, no issue whatsoever. And that's the general conference that even said that's okay, right? Because look, this is Advent Church releases a new vaccine statement. What's it say? Yeah, because it's like they're fine with it. Oh, I wish I could find this one where it's got like the actual general conference. I know that I'm pretty sure the Shiloh Seventh Day Adventist Church gave it out. Oh yeah, right here. Look at this. So COVID-19 update. 2.2K new vaccinations, Marian Church to target hesitancy. The coronavirus pandemic in Florida is an evolving news story, so some information in this article could be out of date, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let me get to this. Shiloh Seventh-day Adventist Church is hosting a vaccine education event on Saturday that will feature a panel of physicians from the Advent Health Ocala. Loretha D. Tolbert Rich is a registered nurse and an Advent Health Ocala board member. Said the event is designed to provide factual information and to answer questions related to the COVID-19 infection and the 3 FDA-approved vaccines. Those approved vaccines are by Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is currently on pause and being reviewed by the CDC and FDA. So anyway, they go, it's hopeful that the information provided during this event will reduce vaccine hesitancy. This is that woman from the Advent Health Network, or the man, I don't know, Tolbert Rich is saying this in an email. It's hopeful that the information provided during this event will reduce vaccine hesitancy and promote vaccination among members of the Marion County community. The Saturday panel will feature Tolbert Rich and several Advent Health doctors, Dr. Michael Torres, Chief Medical Officer in Ocala, Dr. Joanne Sterling, and internal medicine Advent Health Waterman, and Dr. Mohammed Mansour, chief of ICU in Ocala. Also, the panel will be also on the panel will be Patrick Hadley and the Shiloh pastor Rudolph Sterling, who will serve as a moderator. A week after the education event, there will be vaccination clinic provided by the Florida Department of Health, Marion, at the same location. So at the same church, right? So just to show you that I don't think that the SDA Church is necessarily opposing the Jesuits. Just my weird view of things. It just doesn't look like that to me. So it looks like they were like right on board, just right on board, right? You're supposed to be the remnant saviors, and it's very delusional. But like I said, I don't know, man. Like I got Saturday off, so I'm not working tonight. So I wanted to do a video because I had some extra time today, and I felt kind of guilty if I don't do extra work because I feel like God's kind of allowing me to. So if I'm being allowed to and I don't capitalize on it, I feel like I won't be blessed. So I kind of had this on my mind. Thought I would point it out to a few people, and so I'll just leave the stream at that. I want to definitely keep. I don't even know if I want to do hour-long videos anymore. And like I said, I don't even know how long I'll keep this video up because I'm still not sure if I even want to do videos anymore. I'm thinking I might make something so people can donate, maybe based on the donations. I'll see about what I want to do. And people are like, well, Chris, if I donate to you and you don't do videos, why did I donate? I mean, I guess you can look at it like just past money I've spent into this the past 20 years. I've spent at least many thousands of dollars into this stuff, lost opportunities, all this other stuff. So it's like I don't really feel guilty if I took a bunch of people donated and I didn't do nothing. You're just donating out of kindness, because also by doing it this way, no one can sue me for it later. They can't go, well, Chris, I was expecting something, you gave me nothing. Well, no, I just don't want to be sued. Or it didn't quite live up to it. And so I'm going to sue, like someone donates something and they want to do me dirty by like, yeah, but I'm going to take that donation back by saying you didn't, come through. And I just kind of want to leave it open, man. So I'm not sued in any way. And so if I do take donations, I don't feel bad about it. I think people know that I'll probably try to do something with it. But anyway, just my two thoughts. And so I'm out of here, man. Oh, well, I'll read a couple more comments. Crazy Joe says, I'm with you as the Pope and the Mafia that are at the top, and the Jews are on purpose put into these high positions to make people think that's exactly what I think. I think they just get a token Jew, just like, they'll hire a token black guy so they won't look racist, I think the Democrats are real guilty of that kind of stuff too. Like, look, here's this token black guy. We're not racist. We put him in this position, but we're not racist at all. And I think what the Catholics are doing is it's like, it can't be the Jews running things. We got one sitting on the Supreme Court, So yeah, even though or maybe two, but even though they're Catholic educated, they're Jews. So it can't be us. Yeah, that's right, Lee. It wasn't the Jews that tried to blow up the House of Parliament. Yeah, oh yeah, blaming the Jews for the because earlier when I was reading that Protocols of Zion, they were sitting there trying to blame the Jews for the Protestant Reformation, saying that was their scheme to overthrow God's church, the Catholic Church, the good moral leaders of the whole entire world. Same people that stole babies from Protestants for over 40 years between like 1940 to or 1930 to 1970 something. 40 years of stealing babies from Protestants at Catholic hospitals. I think that's where it was. And oh man, where was that? Someplace overseas. I can't remember what country that was, but sat there and stole babies and didn't even come to light until like the 1970s. Did it for almost 40 years without being caught. Then try to downplay the number, but it's about 300,000 children. I think 300,000 children of stolen babies. See if that pops up. Oh, yeah, Spain, that's it. Throughout much of the 20th century, Spain, a criminal network of doctors and nuns, stole anywhere between 40,000 to 300,000 babies from their mothers at birth, constituting one of the most horrific yet known events in the Franco dictatorship. And then, people want to say, oh, why is the trans agenda being thrown down our throats? It's like the Pope sure doesn't oppose that stuff. You got all those gay priests and everything and molesting little boys. If they molest little boys, you think they're actually against the transgender agenda and all that? No. It's like, in fact, if it wasn't for that smiling Pope, Pope John, I think that's his name. I think his nickname was called the Smiling Pope. And he made that whole thing about, if it wasn't for him, homosexuals couldn't even adopt children. He was a big reason why homosexuality got made more acceptable, because they were like, well, it's so mean to like not let them adopt children, even though they were having problems with men adopting children and molesting them. But it's like, oh yeah, they need to be able to adopt children too, and so he helped push for that and made a big stink over it. So like I said, the Democrat agenda and the Pope's agenda, or what people picture the Democrat agenda to be, or what they call the liberal agenda. I don't think they should really be called liberals, because they're such tyrants. Yeah, it's like, how can you call them liberals? They're very tyrannical. But it's like, whatever you picture that liberal agenda is, it sure lines up to the Catholic Church. No guns, open borders, forced vaccination, all lines up. But anyway, that's it.